Hello and welcome everybody to the third episode of the Nerdy Dad Bodcast. I'm your host and Dungeon Master, Levi Bullard, and today we talk about how you're aligned. That's right guys, we're talking about the alignment chart. So, in Dungeons & Dragons, one of the biggest and first parts on your character sheet is alignment. And a lot of people ask, well, what is alignment? And it's something most people don't even want to bring up or talk about because it brings up a lot of controversy. People feeling like it is a dead set rule because alignment is categorized one of 9 different ways. And it's based off of lawful, if you're lawful or chaotic, and if you're good or evil, or some mix of in those range. So people feel a lot of times that, oh, well, I'm chaotic good, or I'm chaotic evil, so I have to go out and just kill people and do all this. And they feel like they have to stick with it no matter how detrimental it is to the fun of the other players, or just to the story in general. And I want to bring up, it's a definite reminder, you do not have to stick to your alignment. Just like if someone says that you're playing an orc and all orcs are evil, you could be the outlier. You could be the black sheep. So just remember that before we get into D&D and talking about its alignment chart and its flaws. But I digress. We're going to get into it. Now, I wanted to keep this fun in a way that kind of showed what this whole, podcast is going to be about. And that's Dungeons & Dragons and Star Wars. So we're gonna take Star Wars characters and break them down with the Dungeons & Dragons alignment chart. Starting with the first one of lawful good, because I think this is one of the easiest ones to do. So what it's talking about when it says lawful good means that they pay attention to the law and they respect the law. So if there's a rule or law in place, they're going to follow it. Even if they feel like, okay, this may not necessarily be the right thing to do, if they're lawful and the law states that they need to, they're going to do it. Now, the good part of it, that's fairly more straightforward. Are you good or are you evil? There's also the neutral, which is right in the middle, so that gets kind of ambiguous. But if we are thinking about Star Wars, who embodies the good side, the light side, and following the law and the tenets of, justice? I think a great example of it would be Luke Skywalker. Because as soon as he was set on his path, he was going, and it didn't matter what. He followed the rules, he did what he was supposed to, he feared straying to the dark side, and he was all around good. He was never tempted to evil. He never did anything evil. He only cared about his friends and did the best he could to save and help as many people as possible. Even at the end, after so many losses, Luke stayed good and still stayed true. Now, I think it's easier to go straight down the line. We'll go to neutral good. So the only thing that changes in here is that they're not strictly bound to the rules. So now we have a good character who can break the rules, maybe doesn't follow orders very well, but still respects some of the laws and does what they're told most of the time. I have a weird take on this one, but I like to say it's R2-D2. Several times he doesn't want to stay with the ship. We're going to talk about all of that type of stuff and my reasoning behind it, but he doesn't always listen. He's a very rebellious and spunky droid. So I definitely think he's a good spot for a neutral character when it comes to the law versus chaos, because he can be very, very chaotic. Listen to his signature wail. I know I'm horrible at that, so I'm sorry for everybody listening. Well, I think we can easily pass that up and go to chaotic good. Now, this is a lot of people feel like this is a little more neutral of a character, but I don't feel so. We're talking about Han Solo. Because when you're talking about Han Solo, you cannot say he is not chaotic. He does what he wants when he wants and has no respect for the law or who's in charge and who has the authority. He will do what he wants to do and what he needs to do. But I feel like in the end, it's always for the good. It's always for the best, and he always has a good, heart on him. So I feel like Han Solo is a perfect example of a chaotic good character. If you guys feel he's more neutral or maybe a completely different alignment, let me know in the comments. We're going to go straight down the line and we're going to talk about the neutral side of things, starting with lawful neutral. So lawful neutral refers to somebody who follows the laws, or maybe not necessarily the laws, but a code or a hierarchy. They respect some type of leadership, even if it's just fear of, physical repercussions or death. It's still kind of lawful. The neutral side is obviously they're not good or evil. They're kind of like bounty hunters. They'll do what they need to get the job done and do what they feel is necessary for their ideals. It's all about them in that aspect. And I think bounty hunter is actually one of the perfect examples with Jango Fett, because you're going to sit here and be like, "What? How the heck do you say Jango is lawful?" And whereas I doubt he would care about just killing anybody or obeying the law in general, he had a hierarchy. If Count Dooku or Sidious told him to go do something, he would do it, and it doesn't matter. Jango would listen. Now, if you want to fight me, let's fight down there. Neutral, or true neutral, a lot of people say their character is, and we'll get a lot of flack for it. Which, I had to think about it for a minute. Who's somebody who follows the rules, but also will break them, maybe with a little peer pressure, persuasion, who's not evil, not good? And I started thinking about a lot of the basic droids. I feel like you're just programmed, you're neutral, you're just right there. But a lot of them 100% just did exactly what their programming was and what they were meant to do and listened to their master. Who's different? I say C-3PO. Because it didn't matter if he got in the hands of somebody else, he'd flip just like that. And yes, I gotta do what they say, because it's my butt on the line. But he also did help out good. He followed the law. He followed what he was supposed to do when he needed to. I really feel like C-3PO is one of the examples, and only examples I can think of a perfect true neutral. Moving on, we go to chaotic neutral. So who's not a good or a bad guy, but just kind of goes out on a whim and kind of can just kill people, maybe leads with a little more passion. And I feel like I could have came up with a couple better solutions than this if I really thought into it. But I wanted to keep kind of with that neutral in the good-evil alignment as kind of bounty hunters. So I think Boba Fett, because Boba Fett led with a lot more passion and is just a lot more reckless than Jango was. And he's definitely a neutral when it comes to good or evil. I don't think he falls on either, because he's actually worked for both. After that, I don't even think we need to stick on neutrals anymore. We can go over to everybody's funnest favorite, the evils. We get to talk about our lawful evil. A lot of lawful evils, they follow the law because it benefits them. They can find their way around it. Politicians are perfect lawful evil people because they follow the code because it works for them. That's why they like it. They know those loopholes. It's devils signing those contracts. A lawful evil character, I think, is Sidious. Sidious always followed, even from the very beginning, the codes of the Sith, the rules that were kind of set in place. And so much that he believed in the rule of two. Even though his master didn't necessarily say and said, we were kind of the last two, we're going to become immortal, and there's not going to be anyone after us. where Sidious didn't believe it. Sidious believed in the code, the rules, the guidelines, and that's why I think he is lawful. And nobody can attest that he is definitely 100% evil. So, who's your neutral evil? Who's somebody that was chaotic, passionate, but also followed a hierarchy? Or usually it's a hierarchy when it comes to evil characters. So, in that respect, I say Darth Vader. We know he's probably one of the most passionate characters ever, and that's kind of what they lead on, and what actually brings him over to the dark side, and the character we get to see make that transformation. And Darth Vader is evil. Anakin, make your adjustments or your opinions on that, whether or not they're two different people. Now, that brings us to the last one and the hardest for me, which was chaotic evil. And I'm not going to cut you out any longer. I couldn't come up with one. I couldn't come up with somebody, at least in the Star Wars universe, that was just pure evil, loved to just kill and murder and do whatever they wanted, cause destruction for destruction's purpose. And it's really hard to think of it in almost any scenario. The only one I can kind of think of is maybe the portrayal of the Joker. But really, I can't come up with a purely chaotic evil character. I'm sure you guys have your ideas in your comments, so please let me know. But honestly, in a nutshell, that's kind of the alignment chart. When you're talking about lawful, neutral, or chaotic, you're talking about where do you feel about rules and hierarchy and people being told what to do. Freedom, I guess, is a way to put that. And that, in a nutshell, guys, is our alignment chart. That's going to take you from all of your lawful to chaotic, which means how do you feel about rules, freedom, and structure, and the good versus the evil, which is your morality, essentially. Or do you fall somewhere in the neutral categories on either of those or both of them? Then we asked, if you guys were a villain, would you be lawful, neutral, or chaotic? Let us know, and next time, we'll see you.